would be good if you had Android 17 and 18. I
Eh,
win. I win the discussion.
Welcome, guys, to episode 7 of Ichimi Talks.
uh,
We have arrived in Little Garden, the second island of the Grand Line.
oh my fucking god.
Alright, it's fine, I just cut. So the crew arrived to Little Garden, and
Yeah, so they arrive at Little Garden, and the first thing we see is Luffy and Vivi heading out. They see this big ass fucking dinosaur, whatever the fuck you call the long neck ass dinosaurs.
A Brachiosaurus.
Then we cut to back to the ship, where Nami and Usopp are left alone, and we see this big shadowy figure, and then we cut away again to Sanji and Zoro hunting for these dinosaurs because they decided to have a competition to see who could catch the bigger dinosaur for food on the ship.
yeah, first they were all scared of leaving the boat, but then everything turned into adventure, and then competition also occurred.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when we get back to the ship, and we see this introduction for a new character who is a giant named Broggy.
The
And-
boy Broggy
And
himself.
Usopp and Nami are scared out of their shit, out of their minds.
Yeah,
They
he's a
haven't seen a
massive
giant. It's the fact that they haven't seen a giant before, and they don't know how aggressive this guy is.
Yeah, and then a dinosaur bites him in the ass, and he makes light work of him to make him seem even scarier, because he just like one shots a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we cut away to back to Luffy and Vivi, and Luffy's basically like jumping around these dinosaurs, and then we see another big figure, and he cuts that long neck dinosaur's head off, and then we get the introduction to his character Dory, also a giant.
So in the middle of this arc, we have the two separate crews, Usopp and Nami, and Luffy and Vivi is like two separate groups in the story, and both of them are with each of the giants. So Usopp and Nami are with Broggy, and they're just like at his little campsite, and they're just having like a lunch, giant piece of meat, and they're asking Broggy like how long till the the post needs to reset.
The log pose.
The log post. And Broggy tells them a year, so they're both over here like, how we're gonna be here for a year, like look at this place, we're gonna die here. And meanwhile on the other side we have Luffy having a great time munching on some food. Vivi and the duck are just there trying to leave, they don't want to be there, they're just seeing Luffy be a child.
Yeah, nah, they're just there.
Yeah, they're
They're
scared.
not. They're not of any
Luffy
importance.
doesn't care, but they're scared.
Well,
Everyone
we
besides
learn-
Luffy is scared.
Yeah, we learn about the what do you call Elabeth is the hometown of the giants.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we learn about their backstory and why they're there and what purpose they have staying here. But they've been fighting for hundreds of years, these two giants, and they don't even know the reason why they're fighting anymore because it's been so long. But nothing's been settled.
Yeah,
And Luffy's in shock, like, you've been fighting for this many years and nothing's happened,
yeah, and basically each fight starts with when the certain volcano on the island erupts, and we get to the end of this conversation where they're talking about how long they've been fighting, and then the volcano erupts, so it's time
Yep.
for them to fight.
They come back to the fight. The
We
battle
see
has
the
begun.
first fight to see what the fight looks like between these two. And it's basically
Yep.
just a stalemate. You have both their shields and weapons clashing, but it's a huge show for the crewmates.
Yeah, and as this fight is happening, we cut to a certain island, the Grand Line named Kukor. Not really important the name of the island, but we see this guy named Mr. 3, as he's referred to as, and
The other
They're
member
basically-
of Baroque Works.
yeah, we know he's from Baroque Works obviously because of the naming scheme, and they're talking about these assignments that have been cast out between the Baroque Works agents, and wait, no, that's later. There's not really much going on between them at the moment.
Yeah,
But
basically
we see the-
continuation to this whole secret organization industry. We see new members of here, and they're
Yeah.
about to do something in this arc we're gonna see later. They're gonna infiltrate something in the Little Garden Island after hearing what happened in Whiskey Peak.
Yeah.
Yeah, then
So
we
we
get
get
the
to-
character introductions. Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week are their names.
Yeah,
and
that's
then we're
right.
back to
And we're back
to
with the
Little
other
Garden.
two.
Back to the fights. You know, it's been settled, stalemate, and Usopp is just in shock because it's such a battle between real warriors, and Usopp's getting like this almost flashback to him wanting to be a great warrior of the sea or whatever he wants to say. But it
Yeah.
gives him this bit of like, I don't know, motivation. And then
Yeah.
later it just snaps back to Nami. just-
Reality.
yeah, reality. Nami telling him like, don't talk about stupid stuff or whatever.
Oh, he's explaining how there might be they have an eternal post for Elbaf, and how they don't need to go to Elbaf and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see. What else?
And this is basically Luffy and Vivi learning that they're might have to stay a year because of log post.
Yeah. So, cutting back, we discover Luffy and Vivi discover that it's gonna take a year to reset the posts, and you know they're all over here wondering, like how to get to the next island to get to Alabasta. And then we
Yeah.
cut to the next crew. You know they're all just chatting, and later on we see an explosion in one of the giants, and supposedly the booze that they were drinking from the Straw Hats blew up. It exploded as if they planned it, and Luffy's just in shock. You know, no one knows what's happening, and the giant wakes up and he's basically trying to figure out which one of you tricked me, like who would do such a thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he puts the blame on obviously Luffy and Vivi because who else could do it? He wouldn't. He doesn't think Broggy would ever do something because of their honorable fight.
Exactly.
And then basically Dory and Luffy have a little fight, and Luffy's pretty much getting his ass kicked the whole time. But then he ends it with a move that kind of knocks out the giant. And Dory is really injured because of the explosion in
His mouth.
in his mouth and his stomach.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's really injured right now. And then
I mean, yeah, this
in the
man had
midst
a
of
whole
all
fucking
this-
explosion right there inside his body. So
Yeah, and then after this, Luffy comes to realization that, of course, it wasn't the other giant Broggy that did that, so there has to be somebody else on the island.
yeah, Luffy's
Oh.
mad that someone interrupted this honorable fight for hundreds of years. Who could do such a thing, really?
Yeah,
And we
And
cut
then-
to basically
Yep.
this little candle house, whatever it seems to be, and we see that Mr. 5 was it, and
yeah, Miss Valentine.
Miss Valentine are in this island
Mr.
as
5.
well.
He said
Mr.
Mr. Five.
I thought I heard him say Mr. 3. Honestly.
I mean, he's also here, so they meet up with Mr. 3 and Miss All Sunday, is it?
Miss Golden Week.
Miss
Miss
Golden
Golden
Week. They mess up with those two, and they talk about things of what their plan is for the giants, and we discover that they have a bounty, right? Because they're bounty hunters, and they had a really old bounty for how much was it again?
100 million each.
That's right. So it's 100 million each, and you know that's their goal. They want to get these giants, and in the middle of all this, they have to interfere with Luffy and everyone. So they're trying to strategize what they could do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the volcano erupts, the same one that they use to when they battle. And
Yep.
Luffy's, over here like, wait, this guy's basically injured. What's gonna happen? This is not good. And Dory's like, I'm a proud warrior. I'm not gonna disgrace my name of Elbaf, whatever. So we're gonna see how this fight turns out when one of them is super injured.
Yep. And basically the fight starts. Luffy's trying to make him not go because he's injured and he knows somebody else is like interfering, but Dory doesn't care.
Yeah.
And then we cut back to the Baroque Works agents talking about how they're gonna take out the Straw Hats as well after they take out the giants, and how it was them that had put the explosion into the alcohol.
That's right.
And then we cut to Zoro, which we haven't seen in a while, and he has this massive dinosaur. And then he sees what we think to be Nami, but with a blank face, it doesn't really look. It looks suspicious, basically.
Yeah.
And then we know it is because the next page we see Nami and Usopp, they're running away from a dinosaur, but then they see Luffy. So how could that other Nami be Nami when she's here.
Yeah.
And then they see basically a fake Luffy as well. And Usopp runs away. She thinks Nami died and got ate by a dinosaur, and he sees the real Luffy and Vivi and meets up with them. And uh, Miss Wednesday or Vivi says that the Baroque Works agents probably followed them to the island because who else could be like interfering with this and trying to kill them. And then as Dory and Broggy are fighting, we see Mr. 3 put some wax under him and he slips, and that's when Broggy basically lands like a tough blow on Dory and wins the match basically
Yep.
for the first time in 100 years.
Yeah.
73,467 battles it took.
Yep.
But it was sabotage, so it doesn't even matter now.
Yep. And as Broggy's crying because this guy he's been fighting for 100 years, it's finally over. And then we see Mr. 3 like basically commenting on it and saying he's crying with tears of joy, and Broggy saying, what do you know? And
Yeah.
that's when we see that Mr. 3 basically had put him into a trap because Mr. 3's power is wax, and his wax gets like steel, as hard as steel when it
It
hardens.
solidifies super. It's
A
very strong.
paramecia type of wax.
Yeah. So Broggy's trapped, and then we cut to Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine.
Capturing Karu.
Yeah, they beat the shit out of Karoo, and they
Yeah.
bring him to Usopp and Luffy and Vivi. And that's when Usopp and Vivi fight Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine, and
Yeah.
nothing really comes of that. And we cut to Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week basically further trapping Broggy.
Yeah, basically everyone in the Baroque Works is easily winning at this whole mission they're doing. Everything's going wrong for the Straw Hats and the Giants as well. And Luffy's over here, like, super enraged with knowing what's going on, all the sabotage that's been happening, all the unfairness. And later on, we get to see this giant wax candle cake, you could say. And this is the Mr. 3's, like, one almost like his special move, and we're gonna see what this does
Basically.
later.
Then they show us Zoro and Nami.
Yeah, they capture everybody, and they basically trap them in this cake where they're gonna solidify and turn into wax.
Into wax.
dummies.
Yeah, they're gonna turn into a cake, basically a statue.
Yeah, so majority of the Straw Hats are trapped, including the Giant. He's also basically sealed with wax. He can't move. He's basically done for. And Zoro's over here thinking he's gonna cut off his legs to escape, and obviously Zoro being Zoro, he's gonna do whatever it takes to win this fight. But in reality, Luffy shows up, so he doesn't.
Before
have
he
to do
does that, though, like he asks the Giant if he wants to join him as well, being a proud warrior.
Yeah, Zoro and the Giant share like the same pride.
Yeah.
And Luffy's over here, finally back to the fight, and he's ready to do some business. He's about to show off his powers and all this stuff.
Yeah, but
and-
unfortunately, though, Zoro already started cutting his legs, so
Yeah, he already
He's a
injured
bit-
himself with that. He didn't fully cut them
Yeah.
off just in time, but he already kind of injured his legs. But Luffy's trapped with this like candle handcuffs on his ankles here, and he uses that to like launch himself and use it as a weight to break off the the candle cake thing, the spinning thing.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
that actually makes it worse because it makes the fire that's spinning around lowered, and it makes the process even quicker for the Straw Hats to be into wax figures.
And what was funny is that Zoro is just like, if I'm gonna be wax, at least I'm gonna pose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Zoro's might as well having a good time, if he's going out.
Yeah.
But Luffy's, putting up a good fight against Mr. 3. And then we see, what's the sidekick?
Miss Golden Week.
Miss
Yeah,
Golden,
Miss Golden
Week.
Week.
We see her, like, powers, you could say, and she does something with, like, paints, symbols, color traps. So
Yeah, what I
Luffy's
heard is that
standing-
her power is not a devil fruit, apparently.
Yeah, this is not a double fruit power. This is
Yeah,
just
it's
something
never been confirmed. It probably
Yeah.
is, but it just never been said.
Anyway,
So,
she
like-
draws these symbols, and if you stand on them or if you're touched by them, they make you basically react in a certain way. So this symbol basically means that you're to do the opposite of what you feel like doing. So Luffy just doesn't feel like saving them, even though he could.
Yeah.
And they find this out later of what all of these are doing. And there's another one where it makes him laugh. Basically, Luffy's just stuck in these traps where he's forced to laugh, forced to just stay still, do nothing.
Yeah, and
The final one is where he could only target the floor, I believe. He tries to launch
It's
himself.
the red trap. The red one makes it
Yeah.
like sorry. It's like a bull.
Yeah.
Luffy's the bull like that can only target red.
yeah, no matter what he could do, he could only hit
And
the
then-
red.
Then he gets hit with like a mixture of blue and yellow, and then it just goes like green, and that's like
yeah, it goes to
him being
calming
relaxed.
green. Yeah. And basically,
Yeah.
the Straw Hats and the Giant, they're all basically solid wax figures. And we
they've
find out-
unfortunately-
What can they possibly do? They're about done for.
And Luffy over here is just having tea.
Yeah, Luffy's
And
drinking.
you could see him like struggling to try and get out of it.
Yeah.
He's even like the tea is good, but like basically being angry though at the same time.
And throughout all this, Sanji, having not been with anyone, he finds that the wax kind of hideout that was in the middle of the thing. And
Yeah.
we just cut to that for a second. Then we're back at the candle cake thing, where everyone's turned into wax. And basically, this wasn't, I didn't put a panel for this, but Usopp like tries hitting Miss Golden Week with one of his like things with the slingshot, one of his bombs.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
ends up hitting Luffy, so it burns the color off of him, so he's just back to normal. And he realizes that everyone completely turned into wax and solidified. And
And then we have Mr. 3 going into his transformation candle champion.
Into his Boda Magetta form.
Yeah, basically.
his Titan form.
Yeah.
And yeah, but then Luffy kind of makes light work of that. You know, Mr. 3 isn't really a combatant with his Devil Fruit. And
Yeah.
Luffy has the bright idea at
To
the
use
same
the
time that
head.
Kaworu is putting rope all around the wax candle cake thing.
Yeah, they find
And-
out that the only way is to melt the wax. So Luffy grabs his hair, which is like a candle, and he's gonna use that to light it.
Yeah. And that pretty much lights the whole candle thing on fire. And we see that everybody is out of it. Everyone's free.
They're all back to normal, and then we got a closer look at Nami real fast, and then
Yeah, if you want, we could get a little look at Nami, but we'll go back to the
look at
story real quick.
Yeah, the
back to
Straw
the
Hats are all
story.
released. Everyone's good. Zoro's going all loose with the flaming swords. And
Yeah.
the Giant is released as well.
And basically everyone there is defeated besides Mr. 3.
Yeah,
And
he escapes to the forest, and we find out he basically clones himself like with wax dummies. And Luffy over
Yeah.
here is trying to figure out who's who, but he does it with just, I don't know, with instinct. He basically UIs this, and he gets the right one.
yeah, he just hits the first one he thinks about
Yeah,
hitting, and it's
just
actually him.
instinct.
Yeah, just
And he
stomps
says
him in
it
the
was
foot.
instinct. Yeah, and
And
that's when we
this-
cut back to Sanji in the candle hideout, and he sees this transponder snail, which
and then
in
it
this
goes
in this
to,
series acts as a phone. And
yeah,
the
it
person
goes
who
to
calls him
Mr. Zero.
is Mr. Zero, the leader of Broke Works, basically. And Mr. Zero thinks he's talking to Mr. 3, and we cut back to
Oh yeah,
back to the whole
Dory-
squad.
Dory gets back up.
Dory is alive. He just passed out. Fucking like he's just confused to how the hell is he back up, and then it's because of the weapons or something.
Yeah, the weapons got dull, so the slash wasn't
so-
that crazy
It
Yeah.
wasn't a
after
crazy
hundreds
slash.
of years of using them. But
Then we come back to the conversation with Sanji and Mr. Zero. And Sanji's pretty much coming to the realization that this guy is their leader, and he's one of
Yeah.
the 7 warlords of the sea. And Mr. Zero's asking him, as if he's Mr. 3, if he's completed the mission. And Sanji tells him, yeah, that he took care of the Straw Hats and Vivi and everyone that knew the secret of his identity. And then Mr. Zero tells Sanji that the Unluckies, which was Mr. 13 and Miss Friday,
Yeah.
they're delivering an eternal pose to Alabasta, to Little Garden, to Mr. 3. And that's when the Unluckies show up, like right after that, and Sanji has a fight with them. And Mr. Zero is kind of suspicious of what's going on because he probably hears all the commotion. And Sanji says, as Mr. 3, that one of the Straw Hats wasn't dead, so he had to take care of him. And that's when Mr. Zero kind of grows suspicious. And basically, at the end of this conversation, well, Mr. Zero hangs up because he was suspicious and just says, bye to
Yeah,
Mr.
get the
3 or
work done,
Sanji.
whatever.
But then he tells Miss All Sunday, which is his, like, what do you call it, like partner in crime,
Yeah.
and tells her to send Mr. 2 to take care of Mr. 3 and basically, kill him because he's acting suspicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We see
And that's when, yep,
post to Alibasta, and
yeah, we see the log pose, the eternal pose.
Yeah, and the whole crew is basically all together, and Sanji reveals that now we have this, so we don't have to be stuck here for a year. And everyone's in shock, like, how'd you get that? But we already know.
Yeah.
After all
Sanji
this,
took care of the other fucking two.
after all this, the
That-
crew celebrate with a cracker party. All the food that, what do you call, Miss...
Miss Golden Week.
Yeah, she was constantly, like, always eating these cookies or crackers throughout the whole thing, so that's all they have to eat right now, since they've been here for a while.
Yeah.
And then we have Sanji and Zoro comparing sizes, as you would, who has the bigger dinosaur from what they hunted just before they
Yeah.
leave to settle that.
And they
But,
couldn't really settle it because,
Yeah.
they're bigger in different ways, so there wasn't really a winner there.
Yeah.
After all this, they set sail, but there is a... What do you call this beast of the sea?
An
that-
island eater is what the Giants call him. And the Giants, as the Straw Hats are setting sail, basically tell them to go forward no matter what you see, just to trust them.
Yeah,
And
they'll take care of it.
basically the Straw Hats ship gets swallowed by this island eater thing. But then Dory and Broggy send this like crazy slash out, and it puts a hole through the island eater, and the attack's called Hakoku Sovereignty.
Yeah,
And
pretty sick move.
That attack right there sounds very familiar, but we won't get to that yet.
And they break
for a
their
long
weapons in the use of that attack from the hundreds of years they've had it.
yeah, and then we cut
Yeah.
to like a little backstory, and basically what this is, it's the backstory as to why the fight started, all because of this little girl asking them to go catch some prey and asked which one is bigger. And then we learned that those big ass mountain things on the island are these animals that they caught
Yeah, they caught those.
100 years
Yeah.
ago, and they're fighting because they couldn't decide which one was bigger.
Yeah,
same
just like
reason that
Zoro and Sanji.
Zoro and Sanji were doing. Yeah, and that's pretty much the end. But before we completely end off, we cut to the Merry Go, the ship, and we see Nami basically looking a little like worse for wear for some reason, and we basically end the arc off with Nami getting really sick like out of nowhere as
Yeah.
they're sailing away to the next island. Yep, and that's the end of Little Garden.
That wraps it up, and next arc is gonna be Alibasta, one of the best arcs in the series from what I'm told.
No, it's not Alabasta.
Oh, that's
From-
right. There's a little bit before then, but we're moving on to Alibasta.
We're moving on to one of the best arcs right now. Alright,
Yeah.
we're moving on to like my personal favorite.
I don't know, dude. My personal favorite. What are we doing?